Thank you. Good morning. And I'll call this meeting to order at 10 o'clock. And first want to certainly acknowledge that we are conducting our meeting today on the traditional territories of Tloquit First Nation, and we're very grateful for that opportunity. I'd like to start with a call to order. We've done that. We did a recognition of there. We do need to talk about notice to attendees and delegates that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to YouTube on the regional district website. And while we're here, let's do some introductions. So those of the general public will know who's in the boardroom and who's applying or zooming in, as we say. Beta.
Beta Singer Director for Area C Long Beach.
Great. Maybe while we're here, we'll just swing around the circle there. Jenny, I see you sitting over there.
Jenny Brown, General Manager of Community Services.
And Heather Center, Manager of Administrative Services.
And on that World Wide Web, the wonderful, I can't see because I don't have my glasses on, up on the board there. We'll start maybe with Daniel. We've got your name up and present there.
Good morning. I'm Daniel Saillant. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for the ACRD. Glad to be here today.
Wonderful. Thank you. And then I see Marilyn in there. Maybe we'll pop over to Marilyn.
Good morning. Yes, Marilyn McEwen, Mayor of Ucluelet, and pleased to be here today as well.
Excellent. We have a few staff members. I see Terry.
Hi there, Terry Fong, Chief Financial Officer for the Regional District.
And I see Mark.
Mark Fortune, Airport Manager for the Regional District.
Awesome. And am I missing anyone? Oh, they're Janice.
Janet Hill, Executive Assistant.
Great, wonderful. If I am missing anyone, Eddie, there he is. Thank you. I just saw it pop up there.
Yeah, I was being quiet. Sorry. Eddie Gunderman, Operations Manager with the Regional District.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think, and then I see Ross McLeod. He's just connected to audio.
Yeah, sorry, I was struggling and I couldn't hear or see anybody, but I think I just got heard right in time to hear my name. So hello, nice to meet everyone. My name is Ross McLeod. I believe we were doing introductions. Like I said, I couldn't hear anything, but the Finance and Admin Manager at Pacific Rim National Park Reserve, and I'm just stepping in for this meeting today just as Dave couldn't hear.
Thank you, Ross. Appreciate it. I think we've got everybody. Oh, Kirsten just chopped. Kirsten.
Good morning.
Good morning. Wonderful. So if I am forgetting anybody, I apologize, and you can chime in at some point if necessary. We do need a motion to approve the agenda today. Thank you, Veda. Appreciate that. I move from chair, seconded by Veda. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. If there are any declarations, this is your time to speak up. Seeing none or hearing none, we can move on to if we could have a motion to adopt them. I'll move from the chair that the minutes of the West Coast Committee meeting held on February 28th, 2024 be adopted. Thank you, Veda. Seconded. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. We do not have anyone, as far as I can see, for delegations or presentations. There are no correspondence on the table for the committee today, but we do have some requests for decisions. Agenda item number 7, and that is 7A. It's a request. It's around the West Coast Transit schedule change and update. I do believe we have. It's going to be Eddie that speaks to this. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it. Happy to be here to discuss a potential schedule change for the West Coast Transit system that launched April 2nd of this year. So what we're looking to do with this schedule change is alleviate some of the labor issues and redistribute some of the hours to help with those labor issues and also provide better trip times for the users of the service. So since the service started April 2nd, it's been generally good, but we've definitely had some issues and some kinks that we've been working out. One of the most important ones, of course, with any transit system is creating that reliability within the system so that the users can come to trust the service, can come to rely on it being there when they want it to be there. The current schedule has hurt the summit. There is a big gap mid-afternoon, which has caused there to be a lengthy split shift on one of the shifts and has led to some labor issues. So what we're looking to do is potentially take away that early morning trip, which has seen the lowest riderships of any of the trips. So in the first 7 weeks of service, the 6:30 a.m. round trip between Ucluelet and Tofino, we've only seen 52 riders on that trip, compared to the 1:30 trip where we're at 254 riders. So the first trip, if that trip were to be redistributed in the afternoon, we would potentially, have higher ridership, and then we would reduce that split shift time. So that's really what we're looking to do with this request. I just wanted to touch on some of the other challenges that the system has seen since we've started and ways we've been working to reduce this. We've been seeing some loss of service due to buses being broken down. We missed one of the 7:30 run today round trip due to a bus being broken down. We are working to, as best we can, of course, with any transit system, you are going to see buses broken down from time to time. We have signed a contract with Tough City Radio to ensure that any disruptions are broadcast. We're working to ensure that social media is going to be broadcast as soon as we are aware. And then we're also going to work on introducing some redundancy options within the system for especially when we have instances such as where the last trip of the day is canceled, as we saw on Friday. So we are working on those issues. Another issue that we've heard is a lack of service to the community of Millstream, which has also been investigated. We have had conversations with Modi about what service could look like. They have communicated that due to the grade of the hill, we can't just stop, especially when heading from Tofino to Ucluelet, we can't just stop on the highway. There's safety issues with passengers there. So to provide service to Millstream, we would have to deviate into the community, which would approximately, depending on traffic patterns in the community, would be about 3 to 4 minutes, that loop. Heading from Ucluelet to Tofino, we could potentially stop on the side of the road there. There is enough of a safe clearance. So what we've been looking at is a couple potential options to service this. One would be a redistribution of hours, adding a peak summer schedule and then looking at an off-peak fall-winter schedule. However, in looking how long the service has been in, we kind of potentially may want to wait a little bit longer before we revamp the schedule, as much as this would necessitate us doing. It would be quite a thorough revamp. So the other option is this would take about 200 annual service hours in order to make this change by doing that way. So those are potential options. We're looking at waiting until we have the bus technology in place to redistribute it, so we'll have a better idea of the ridership patterns in the area first. So bus technology, we are hoping to have it installed within the next 2 weeks. We were hoping to have this in place when the service started, but unfortunately there were delays with the operating company's installation company and their technology company. Once that is in place, we'll have a better idea of ridership patterns, and then we can make sure that any changes that are made to the schedule are in line with the highest distribution of rides with a larger sample size. So that's what we're looking at for the Millstream system and servicing that. As far as bike racks, that's another issue that we have heard quite a bit about. They are coming. They were supposed to be there again for the implementation. We're waiting for them to get there. Ridership has been trending up, which is good news. We've been over 300 each of the last 2 weeks. So it is trending up from the start of the service, as shown in the graph. And then one other item that we've been looking to address is senior fares and introducing that reduced senior fare. So we have ordered some tickets, and we will be introducing kind of that senior fare at a $2 reduced fare to start. So that will be coming in shortly. And then just looking at, the financial impact of what we have proposed, and then the financial impact of providing that optional service to Millstream. So the change that we have proposed, there'll be limited financial impact as the annual service hours will remain within the same bucket. Providing optional service to Millstream, as I mentioned, it would be about 200 annual hours. without creating the peak and off-peak schedule would be approximately $20,000 annually. Once we create that peak and off-peak schedule, the financial impact again will be close to neutral because we will be able to remain within that same bucket of hours. We have provided some options. So within the options considered, we did provide that option for increasing the annual service by 200 hours to provide the service for Millstream. We also provided the option to develop the peak and off-peak schedule at this point, which we could do and we could start working on if that's the direction the committee wanted us to take. Or the committee could recommend that we choose none of the options and continue with the current schedule as is. I will stop talking now and I'm happy to take any questions.
Great. Thank you, Eddie. Appreciate that. I'll look to the committee here. Veda's got her hand up and is Lavana. Excellent. I see up there as well. So your screen is, for those that are zooming in, the screen is really small. So maybe I'll look to Heather if there is people that have their hand raised or whatever, if she can maybe just give me the heads up because it is facing my back. So thank you. But Veda, please go ahead.
I just want to say thank you so much for the bus service. I really think it's improved the safety of all of the riders that are using it. And I still see a few people hitchhiking. I don't know how we can get around that one, but it continues to be an issue for some people. And hopefully as the hours settle in and people get used to the service, it'll be used more. The Millstream, it's not just the Millstream area that is an issue. I mean, the accident rate between Ucluelet and the junction has been a problem historically that Modi has not dealt with. I'm sorry, but and I'm just wondering if a letter to the effect that there needs to be a change in the speed sign designations, because you can go 80 right up until the hill, which dips. So people are going 80 and then there'll be a backup for a left-hand turn onto a Catson Road. And I've seen so many near misses on that just because people are going 80 and then seeing the rear end and tail lights of a car right in front of them. So I think as an individual, not as a director, would it be reasonable to write Modi with suggestions on how safety can be improved on that stretch of road? Or would that not be,
Well, I'll look to staff, and I know that we're dealing with the same issue here at the district in terms of conversations with Modi and safety of the highway jurisdiction. I'll quickly look to Jenny since she has her hand up. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent point. I think there's a number of other items that are coming up in my head where we've got some issues that we should sit down and talk with Modi about. So we can add this to the list. I think writing a personal letter for any of your members in the community or anything, by all means, you can always do that. Contact them via email and just express resident concern. But from the regional district perspective, we do have a little more of power in our voice. And so I think it is a reasonable one to discuss, especially since you're expressing concerns about that area and other issues. Veda, maybe what might be helpful is if you could just write out the specifics of what that like long-standing traffic concern is, and then we can put that on the list. And then when we have a staff-to-staff meeting with Modi, we can clearly express that and go through it. And then we can at least start that conversation from a staff level to see what is, or if there are barriers to making any of those changes. And we can talk about that. I have a few other items that have been sort of stacking up from other areas as well. So I think a good sit down with maybe a meal or coffee or something with Modi might be helpful.
great, thank you. And can would it be useful to have the director of Modi for our area come to a West Coast?
We do often ask for delegations, and I can't remember the last time is that we had Modi come, but maybe we can put that on our radar for the fall, but we'll try to start with a staff to see how things are going. And then I think it's good to have a good relationship with them and keep those lines open so that we know what they're doing in our electoral areas and also expressing our concerns. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do have them come to our board meetings as a delegation fairly regularly, and great reports. So yeah, that's an excellent idea. Thank you. I'll look up onto this here. Marilyn.
Thank you. By reading this report, I definitely agree that we need to include Millstream, but it looks like staff is thinking it's a little too soon to create a peak and off-peak schedule, maybe just based on ridership. It's a little too early to do that. Is that correct through the chair?
Thank you, and I can touch on this one. Potentially, Marilyn, or Director McEwen, we brought this to the West Coast Transportation Working Group to get some feedback as well, and that was some of the feedback that we heard is waiting a little bit to have a longer sample size once we get the bus technology, token transit validators in place to really see the distribution of rides between different groups within the system, and potentially what a more thorough and complete overhaul of the schedule would mean to some of those trips.
Great, thank you.
And I'll look at the rest of the board. I don't see any hands up. I've got just a few comments regarding transit. Eddie, thank you so much. And as Veda said, this is a tremendous service to the West Coast, and looking at those ridership numbers is incredibly encouraging. I've also anecdotally had a number of conversations, very positive response from a number of local constituents here. So thank you so much for the work so far. In terms of some feedback onto the Millstream service, I think that was one of the requests. I think it would be important to maybe take that time to look for good data, usually good decisions based on that. So if that's helpful in terms of direction for you, I think we're comfortable with your recommendation around that. And of course, in the West Coast Transportation Committee also was supportive of that, is my understanding. So certainly, if that's good, that to be the direction there. In the senior fare discount, I did want to touch on that, and thank you is the big there. That was certainly something that was some direction that had come. And I'm very glad to hear that. And I may have missed, when is the potential implementation for that discounted senior fare?
Thank you. We were just waiting for the discounted books of ticket to arrive so we could distribute them through some of our groups on the West Coast Transportation Working Group. They were going to distribute them to some of the seniors in the area, and we were just waiting for those to arrive, and then we can put it in place. But really, we can put that fare in place at any point on the Token Transit app.
Wonderful. And just out of curiosity, what is the senior age that we're looking at here?
I know it's that vague term. So we were just working off the BC Transit definition and trying to keep consistent with the knowledge that BC Transit will be coming on board, and that is 65.
Great. Thank you, Eddie. And I don't know the relationship as the province in terms of Modi, once again, in terms of BC Transit and the further conversation with BC Transit around service delivery for us on the West Coast. There has been some positive conversations. Would that be an opportunity in terms of increasing those service hours out to, for example, Millstream and potentially other areas? Is this where we can have that conversation with BC Transit?
Yes, thank you. Absolutely. I think with the BC Transit expansion package, should we say, there were an increased number of hours within that option that was taken to the provincial government and put forth and approved. I believe it was 7,500 annual service hours compared to what we have at 5,700. So there are more hours to play with there, and we could look at that time to put Millstream service in. It's just unsure as to when exactly that will take place.
Great, thank you, Eddie. I was hoping that was the answer there. So thank you very much for that. I'll just look to see if there was any other comments from the committee. Seeing none, there is a recommendation. I'm just going to find it here onto the right page here. I believe there was a recommendation on this one. Yes, maybe I'll just move from the chair that the West Coast Committee recommend that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors approve a schedule change for the West Coast Transit Service to alleviate the labor issues created by the gap in the midday service of the clinic schedule.
Second.
Seconded by Vade. Thank you, Madam Director McEwen. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. Look, someone's banging the gavel here. Moving on to the report, the next reports. We have ex officio member updates, and right at the top of the list, and Ross, I think, see you there. If Pacific Rim National Park has anything to share with us, this would be the opportune time.
Thank you. Yes, I do have 3 speaking points here. Just short updates and then 1 request for a meeting. So first off, Pacific Rim National Park Reserve visitation. In the past fiscal year, April to March, there were 1.11 million visitors in the Long Beach unit, which is down compared to the previous year. However, we believe this is mostly due to the Cameron Lake closure, the consistent single lane alternating traffic in that area, and just general trends, downward trends, I should say, in visitation across the entire area due to perhaps inflation or high prices. This statistic was comparable to the 2019-2020 year, which was 1.11 million, which was the last year before the pandemic hit. So not too much of a change overall since then. The other one is wolves in the region. I'm sure you've seen in the news and perhaps heard of it. So regionally, we've had some concerning wolf behavior over the last few weeks with interactions in Tofino, in the park reserve, Ucluelet, as well as ACRD lands. Some of these behaviors were prolonged and indifferent daylight behaviors from the wolves, and in high human use areas, pardon me. And 1 wolf approached a dog, and possibly another dog was killed by a wolf. So our park staff have reached out to Tloquet, Kluathat, Toquat, WildSafe BC, the BC conservation officers, as well as some ACRD staff and 1 resident of Vargas Island, to share what we know and to seek some more information knowledge. And Dave passed on that. We appreciate the regional support we've been receiving on this file. And finally, I wanted to speak about litter and garbage at the Pacific Rim Visitor Center. So as you know, it's a Parks Canada building at that location, which is primarily operated by 4VI, located on District of Ucluelet property and within the ACRD. So there's quite a bit of jurisdiction in that area. For the past 10 years, people have been dumping garbage in garbage bins at the parking lot in this location, which is anything from residential garbage to commercial garbage to visitors or back road users. So we have been keeping the grounds clean or removing the garbage and litter for that time, but it's no longer sustainable for it to fall on just Pacific Rim National Park Reserve. So we're seeking support from all 4 of the partners in that area, and we're hoping to come up with a plan of how we can all contribute to mitigate this issue. So in the coming weeks, we'll have from the Pack Room Super account, we'll try to set up a meeting with all 4 stakeholders so we can discuss possible solutions. Those were my points. Are there any questions or any further information needed on any of the 3?
Thank you, Russ. I'll look to the committee. I don't see any hands up. I do want to thank you very much, and that wolf activity is certainly in my area of the mudflats and the Jensen Bay area. We're certainly seeing those movements, and somewhat, I won't say out of character, but certainly those interactions with the domesticated dogs have certainly been a concern in the Tofino area, anyways, for sure. And I think I saw staff nodding their heads in terms of the support for finding some solutions to the issues you brought up there, and they're nodding their heads. And so when you reach out, that would be great, and we can hopefully find an equitable solution to those issues around the garbage out in that area. So thank you, Ross. Appreciate it. Looking at other ex officio members, I don't see any representation from a House It on the board, and I don't know if I'll look over to Heather. Negative. I know Tloquet First Nation emailed that they wouldn't be able to participate today, and I'll look to Heshquit. I don't see any representation on the board there. Thank you, Heather. So with that, I'll move from the chair that the West Coast Committee receive the reports. Seconded by Veda. Thank you kindly. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. Now, very exciting, I've been waiting for this, report for information with staff presentation, the 2023 West Coast Landfill Annual Report. I see Paulo there, excellent.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Chair, and everyone. Good to see you all. As usual, this is going to be an overview of 2023 activities for the West Coast Landfill and the waste shed as a whole. So 2023 year in review. I'm going to go through a series of slides, and we'll pause in different areas so we can address any questions, and then we'll just open it up for Q&A at the end. So with that, away we go. I'll do a share screen. Okay. Hopefully everybody's seeing that okay. You should have the title screen up.
We do.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. So I'll just jump right into it. So we're going to do an overview of our missions and targets for our solid waste service. Talk about solid waste generation, disposal. We'll go through how waste diversion, sort and go has been working over the last year, landfill capacity, finances, environmental monitoring, and go quickly over 2023 projects and what's on tap for 2024, and if time permits, a little bit beyond. So jumping right into missions and targets. Our goals, and I always go over this with the group as a reminder, to protect human health, the environment, and maximize value of service by effectively managing our region's solid waste in environmentally, socially, and economically responsible manner. And we have some key targets that we go after. We look at reducing our disposal down to less than 400 kilograms per capita, boosting our waste diversion to 50%, more is better. Increasing our waste airspace consumption, in other words, how much you press into a cubic meter of space, to 750 kilograms per cubic meter. We ensure annual capital contributions meet funding requirements, and then we have environmental requirements as well around leachate and around landfill gas. So jumping right in. What you'll see, as a reminder, is we have a series of charts that we do a running 5-year average. So we always compare what went down in 2023 and see generally how we're looking at for trends throughout the previous 5 years. The sheet you have before you is our waste disposal generation. What you notice here is that we have a target of 400 kilograms per capita. We are typically around 600 and slowly trending down to our lowest, which was 525 kilograms per person of disposal last year. Now, part of that has a lot to do with the closure that we saw on Highway 4. We did see a drop in tourism, and that translated to a drop in waste as well. We also saw a combination of this. Residential waste was also lower, but that had a lot to do with the boost in organics and recycling as a result of the 3-stream curbside organic program, which we'll talk about later on in the piece here. And then the other takeaway out of this combined number is we obviously did see that lower piece in commercial for tourism, and a little bit less in construction demolition waste as well. Jumping into waste diversion, this is our second target. I've changed a little bit here, we changed a little bit here, so we can take a look at the visual for the graphs, and then we've got the data on the next page. So all told, total waste diversion has increased on a regular basis for 5 years. It's a really good success story. It's doubled over the last 5 years since 2019. And the bulk of that had to do with an increase in organic waste being diverted after getting through our first year of the new Sort and Go program. And that increased our residential diversion rates as well. We also see more data being reported out. So we're getting more data on private commercial recycling that is going on in the West Coast, numbers that have not been captured in the past. And a lot of that is where you see this contribution on the side here. Generally, we had, generally metal recycling still remains about the same, although tonnage dropped a little bit. And we had some increases in recycled BC materials as well as some improvements generally on stewardship items. That's drop off at different depots of like batteries, electronics, things like that. So generally good trend. And then the next one shows us the numbers. And oops, there we go. So as you can see, we could see our drop in residential waste. We see a nice big jump in yard waste and organics. That's our largest increase. So out of the, we'll talk about a little bit later, but out of the 636 tons you see here for waste diversion, little under half of that was specifically due to the new 3-stream program. You could see as well the drop in commercial waste due to the tourism piece that we saw from Highway 4, and a little bit from construction demolition dropped off. Generally, you'll note that we had a lot of waste material coming in for 2022, dropped off quite significantly in 2023. And generally, we saw our largest tonnage yet for waste diversion, 2,200 tons of material that was kept out of the landfill. So generally, a really good system, even though with the we saw that that upset with Highway 4 last year. I'll pause for a quick sec just in case anyone has any questions so far. Otherwise, I'll keep going.
I don't see any, Paulo. I've got a whole bunch of comments, but I'll let that'll come near the end here. So thank you.
Okay, no worries. And thank you. So an overview. This is our first year of the 3-stream program. Sort and Go program was rolled out, as you know, over 1,870 homes now in the communities of Hitatsu, Taistanis, Esawista, and the district of Ucluelet, as well as the district of Tofino and outlying areas. And overall, this is our snapshot that we've seen here. Garbage is reduced down for single-family homes for that group, down to 44%. We saw obviously a nice boost with curbside organics with 36%. And recycling also tweaked up a little bit to 20%. Larger carts, you can put more of your recyclable materials inside here. And this is a quick snapshot here of the tonnage that we captured overall through the 3-stream program. Just a little over 800 tons. And as you can see, you know, over 540 of that, 550 of that was strictly through waste diversion. So a really big success for the first year of this program. Yeah, there's not too much else to be said on that one. I'll just shift forward. Next slide here talks about airspace consumption ratio. So again, as a reminder, airspace consumption is what is left over that goes into the landfill and gets compressed into a cubic meter of space. So what we track is the amount of cubic meters that we fill from January to January. We took in about 9,800 cubes of space consumed. We have another 680,000 cubic meters of space left available. And the remaining life of the landfill is still relatively unchanged from what we saw the previous year. It's about 40 years. This is designed as a model so that we go in and assess each year. A couple of the takeaways that we do notice, though, is while we did see a very high airspace consumption ratio last year, we noticed that it dropped as well in 2023. We're looking at the work out there. It looks like it might be an aerial survey error, so we're looking into that. We're also looking as well into other options for compaction and pressing the material into place that we have in place. So we'll have more to come at the end of the year, but yeah, that's what we have on that. Next slide here is on finances. And so we have a couple of pieces that I show you here. Our 2023 contributions and our $100,000 for closure post-closure fund. That's the fund that is set aside for eventual closure of the landfill. Once the landfill is actually closed, there is typically a large amount of time, ranges anywhere between 50 to 100 years for small landfills where nothing else is going in, but monitoring is required, maintenance is required of that asset. So the idea is you're putting money away each year to fund that future work. The current fund is at 1.4 million as of the end of last year. We also include the actual reserve fund with capital fund contribution and the post-closure fund contribution here. You'll note that there's a large spike for 2022 coming back down to 2023. And that has to do specifically with the capital upgrades that we did and the rollout of 3-stream in over the couple of years there. That was primarily funded by the Strategic Priorities Fund, Priorities Gas Tax Fund, and that reflects this transfer into capital so that we can complete the work on having the carts out, build the new tipping wall, and build the first phase of the organics facility, which was completed last year. The chart beside you here for 2023 is a summary that we include showing our landfill operation costs. That includes contract costs as well as managing of the site, administration and education costs. So any of the waste education work that we do is included in that. Recycling on organics, that is a portion of the three-stream collection. So three-stream sort and go is covered off in there, as well as any other works with collection at depot on the West Coast landfill side. Recoveries is a piece that covers off the revenue that we get back from stewardship items, from recyclables, such as from Recycle BC, as well as the fees captured for the sort and go program. That's the sum total that is here. And that releases a net cost for operations of $913,000 for 2023, a bit less than 2022. Reserve fund allocation is also listed here as well at just shy of $200,000. I'll pause again super briefly, see if there are any questions.
I will, Paulo, have some questions on this, but maybe just for fluidity, maybe we'll continue on with the presentation. I'll be able to circle back if that works for you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, moving into the environmental monitoring area. This is a walkover of the program. We have a series of surface water monitoring areas. We also have a leachate system in place. Water quality is monitoring is conducted quarterly, where field samples are collected by ACRD staff, and that's sent off to our environmental consultants. The way the system works is we do have a leachate system that is running into issues with experiencing overflow events during winter storm. It is lower capacity. Water leaving the site is within the envelope of the freshwater aquatic life. That's what we measure against. That's a target that we're working on right now. And what that means is when you run into overflow issues, the concern is that you're going to exceed your environmental quality for F-wall. So what we do is we try to ensure that there's no impact for leachate leaving the site and ensure that water quality matches what we're seeing in background around Sandhill Creek, which it is based on the environmental monitoring results from last year. We do note in here that there is a future design project to enhance leachate treatment and eliminate overflows. That'll be heavily reliant on grant monies that we're working towards, but the plan is to go out for detailed design in coming years and construct a larger system on the west side of the landfill that will employ a system such as an engineered wetland. So we're looking forward to that in the future, but we're not quite there yet. Next. Just a couple of overview maps of the site in general. I'll just skip through these. That's just the overview of the actual site. Landfill gas. We're under a requirement, as with all landfills, to monitor for any landfill gas emissions and conduct a modeling exercise every 5 years. We conducted that supplementary exercise last year, and based on the estimate, the landfill generated approximately 393 tons of methane produced for 2023. For context, the intent is to stay well below the ministry compliance limit of 1,000 tons per year. After 1,000 tons, you're required to put in a very expensive gas collection system. So the way to get around that is diverting organics. So as we continue and build on the sort and go program and slowly see commercial organics eventually coming out of the landfill as well, we're going to see that number slowly peak and drop off. And the other piece that we also track is vehicle and equipment operations, which do create greenhouse gas emissions as well. That's something that we track through our contractors. Just an overview of operations. We have outstanding non-compliance advisories that we work through with the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change Strategy. So we have some key follow-ups that we have in place. We did get our organics facility registered last year, actually at the end of 2022. We're working with MOE to confirm new regulations on soil disposal on the site, any additional monitoring and sampling that is required by our environmental consultants, and update documentation to reflect all the infrastructure that we've upgraded on the site. Anything to do with our leachate system, we're looking at some minor upgrades this year, the organics facility, the tipping wall. All of this will be reflected in a future project that we're starting this year, which is to amend our ministry certificate. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. Generally, as we talked about, we have processed 300 tons of organics after screening. We've got no real documented concerns from customers on operations, dust, noise, litter, traffic, odor, wildlife attractants. That's something that we track on a very regular basis under our permit. And aside from that, we had some general feedback on operations, just hearing back that we had a lot of questions on organics cost and much interest in purchasing compost. That is something that we're working on, and we're just not quite there yet until we get all of our operations in place. Next one. And then the last couple of slides are a summary of projects we did and projects we're working on. So briefly, you'll see an image here of the commissioning of the new facility or the organics facility up in the northern area here, and the new tipping wall. And the next slide, we have a list here of a larger part of the project that we're working on. The biggest one we have is the solid waste management plan. We completed the first phase with establishing the Swamp Advisory Committee, composed of public and technical members to represent the interests of our First Nation communities and our various ACRD subregions to achieve a good whole. We conducted 4 advisory committees throughout the ACRD, and were able to attend different spots of the region to assess current waste management infrastructure, resources, and the idea of looking at gaps and incorporation into the updated solid waste management plan. You know, what do people want to see? How do we want to engage the kind of waste infrastructure programs we want to engage in, waste education, all of those sorts of things. We also conducted an initial public survey to gather feedback on solid waste practice and opportunities, and information portal was also created, as you've seen, on our Let's Connect page to establish for project updates and waste education resources. Waste reduction education was focused on presentations and community booths, along with building a lot of online interaction using social media. We also conducted our waste compensation study, which I spoke to the committee earlier this year, looking at landfill waste and looking for what those key materials are that we can divert. The takeaway from that study was that there's up to 66% of the material that goes into landfill is material that can be diverted, making the landfill last longer and boosting the ability to reuse and recycle different materials. We also completed our tipping fee review last year, reflecting increases to bag fees, wood waste, branches, RVs. And as mentioned earlier, we completed our landfill gas supplementary report. So last couple. For 2024, we're wrapping up the organics facility, the next phase. So we're installing cover building structure and setting up receiving area for the eventual sale of compost. We're also setting up and have just recently completed some preliminary testing on our organics, on the resulting compost piece there, to see if it actually meets Class A compost. It looks like it is, so we're just working through that process right now. And oops, apologies. The last one we updated the new landfill operations contract, went out for RFP last year. That is going once again to our contractor, Barry and Vale, for another 5 years. That contract will be going live as of July 1st. We'll be working on the leachate system to install some flow monitoring as per our environmental consultant. That'll be later this year. As we talked about earlier, the solid waste management plan, we're engaging into the second phase this year. So this will be all about the system review, going through feasibility study, and then going out for engagement with the community. We have onboarded a new group of waste educators, Let's Talk Trash, a really amazing group that are assisting with creating programs, boosting for community awareness, and working through establishing community champions in the Alberni Valley and on the West Coast. Something that we really have been looking for a long time, to boost that in-person presence that we've been looking for to help folks with all the new changes that we've done with our existing systems. We're updating the landfill operation certificate. That's the permit that allows it to operate in the first place. So we're going through a lot of those changes I spoke about in the environmental section with the Ministry of Environment. So that'll be a process that'll overlap into 2025. We're working on establishing three-phase power out at the site. And then eventual future initiatives will include the work on the leachate system, construction, demolition, diversion, working on cover systems, and updating our operations plan for the landfill. That's about it. And I talked a lot, so I'm going to stop share and open this up for questions.
Thank you so much, Paulo. I very much appreciate the report itself, and also the presentation today. I'll look to the committee to see if there's any comments or questions to staff on this one. I've got like a few things, so I'm not seeing anyone raising their hands. So then I can launch in. I got a green light. That's awesome. Of course, I just thanked you, but I also just almost the very last point that you had brought up about the education, and one of the things that has become apparent over the years is how waste, and I'd love to change the language around how we refer to that, but is pretty much an unseen within our communities. It's, you know, we put it out to the curb, it's gone. But the complexities of dealing with that, as you've laid out in this report, I think that needs to be educated to the public. And so thank you for those initiatives. We know how important that's been into the success of our Sort and Go as an example. And I think it's that continuum of education that will bring this to the forefront, because it is something that we deal with like literally on a daily basis, and how we go about that. I think the public, the more they know, the better resourcing we'll get on that. Just a few points on there. The general trends are very encouraging. Yes, there was a little blip in terms of visitation to the coast, but you know, the numbers that you've given up, 12% decrease in total volumes. Those are everything is trending in the direction we'd like to see. And so we do recognize in terms of our per capita that's come down. We still know that we want to come down even further from, I think it was 526 is where we're at now. We'd love to see us get down to 400. So we know there's it is a significant gap still to reach our optimum. So I think the work that's being done and the trends that we're seeing is indicating that we're going in the right direction. So that's an extreme positive. Around operations and costs, and you specifically touched on the design, operations, and closure plan, and that the contributions that we've been making to that, we know those are gonna cost down in the future. We're being responsible by putting the set amount of money away that projected over time. And with that being said, so some of the work we've been doing in terms of diversion and increasing potentially the life of that landfill, and those contributions, we want to be ensuring that we're making the appropriate levels, at the same time respecting that nothing has been going down for the taxpayers in terms of their yearly contributions to these services. Is there, with those expanded timeframes, with knowing the appropriate level of contributions we need to make, is there room, is there room to make adjustments to the lower end of contributions without jeopardizing the sustainability that I think we're on a positive trend with?
Thank you, Chair. That's a fair question. And as you rightly point out, it's you know, we're seeing costs go up on a regular basis. We've seen that with our contracts, all that sort of thing. We're always making sure that we try to be as responsible as we can with the amount of money that is actually transferred over to ensure that that system remains sustainable. We're looking at some different options on how we can continue that forward without, you know, increasing costs, as you say, to the taxpayer. Like that's something that's not something we want to do, but understanding that there's a balance between that and what the value of waste is. So There might be some room. I can't promise what that room will look like, but I assure you that we are working through that process. And a lot of that actually has to do as well with the work that Jody and the team are doing through the update of the solid waste management plan, because a lot of that has to be focused again on sustainability, how to make those systems work.
You're probably reading my mind in terms of the segue into the solid waste management advisory group. And I did see Kirsten's got her hand up. Maybe I'm going to take a little pause, and I'm going to, because I still got more to go. I'll take a little pause, and Kirsten, please, if you'd like to comment or question.
Hi, thanks for the report. I was just wondering how far along, or if it's being discussed about getting commercial onto a 3-stream system. I work in an office and I feel terrible about not doing the same thing at my work that I do at home.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Director. We're still working through that process. Their focus is, you're right, has been very focused on residential. Residential generally has it down. We figure out contamination, we figure out what we need to do to make sure diversion is. Then construction is, and commercial, ICI is the next piece there. Establishing systems that are going to work for, not just for offices, but for schools, for hospitals, all of those sorts of things. So it's a long one, and it's one of the focuses of the solid waste management plan update here. I can't give you a timeline of what that looks like again, but that's one of our key projects that we have.
Thank you. Any follow-up, person? I see your mic's off, so I'm going to assume no. And Veda, you had a question or comment?
Just to follow up on Kirsten's comment, I agree totally. We have early adoption of restaurants, their takeout food being in compostable bins, wooden sticks, and yet it's going into a plastic bag and to the dump, which is really counterproductive. So the sooner we get on simple things like, having a bin for food waste and paper plates, going to the organics, I think we'll be better off. And I just want to compliment Paulo on his collection of data, which is really good, but most significantly his interpretation of it. It was a really good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. It was a team effort, huge team effort with Brenda, Jody, and the rest of us.
Yes, very, very much. Thank you for that. I just had a couple more related to the big shout out to Jody and the work on the solid waste management advisory. Sometimes herding cats is an incredible task, and you guys have been accomplishing that very well, let me just say. I had a couple questions around the leachate, and it revolves around more recognizing it is still in the budget, and I recognize that we've been pushing it down the road a little bit for a variety of reasons. It's a huge project, potentially, as you've indicated, potentially grant funded. Well, without grant, it will be very difficult for us to be able to accomplish that. So we are going into UBCM. We are going into ministerial meetings, and I'm wondering from a staff perspective, and I know Daniel's there. I see him online. Would this be a topic area potentially for the ACRD to reach out to MOE as a conversation around some of the constraints we're seeing around resourcing funding for this project, which we know is important. It is a mandate. And we are needing to be in compliance with this, but we certainly need the help on this one. So I see Daniel's come online, and maybe if you could comment on if it might be an appropriate conversation at UBCM.
It certainly is. And so if there are areas where the board would like to see additional funding opportunities coming from the province or other levels of government or through UBCM, itself, the forum in September is a great opportunity to bring that forward. And I believe we actually have that subject coming up on June 12th. The board meeting on the 12th is going to be asking the board for any key topics that you would like advanced. So this would be one. And the reason why we asked in June is because all requests have to be in by the end of July. And that gives us about 6 weeks to draft a proper request and make sure that that we're hitting the mark. So it's good for us to know early, and even better for Paulo to know early, because he will be the guy drafting this.
Thank you, Danny. I was channeling that. We're going through those conversations at the district right now, and so this was one that kind of flagged from an ACRD perspective as one that I thought may be inappropriate, as well as a couple others that we'll talk about on June 12th. So great, and somewhat tied to the conversations around funding. We did a service and fee review, and we signed a contract with Berry & Vale, our contractor. And in terms of a service, the fees that we charge, we did a great review. Is there, do we have a time frame where we look at those fees, a service fee review, I suppose? I know we just completed one, but is there a time for, do we have a mandated time frame where we review those? We know that there's challenges with inflation. Operating costs always go up. So is that something that we have on a time frame?
Short answer is yes. We honestly, we mandated internally to review, especially when we go through contracts like this, review at least every couple of years at most. Annually is nice, but it does get busy. So at least every couple of years, we look at what our new fees are compared to the new contract rates, and we keep a close eye on what that looks like there.
Great. Thank you, Paulo. I don't have anything else other than to really thank the work that is being done. This is a massive undertaking, the running of a municipal, a regional landfill, and the work that goes into it. This is great because then we all get to hear and see the work that goes into creating this incredible service that's provided to the region. So thank you, Paulo, and the team. I know it is a team effort. And once again, shout out and appreciation.
Thank you.
Don't see any other hands up, so we can move on. I believe that there is a recommendation I'll make from the chair that the West Coast Committee receive the report. Thank you, Veda, for seconding that. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. I'll look, there is no late business, otherwise I would have been told a while ago. I'll look over to Heather to see if there was anyone online listening to this wonderful conversation, if there was any questions from the public.
So there's nobody in the public, there's no questions on Zoom, and I'm just gonna check the email, and there's no responses received by email. What?
So with that being said, I will read from the chair that we will go into camera now, and the reason we are going to go, we have to list, and I will make the motion to close the meeting to the public as per the community charter, and those sections are 91C, and that's labor relations or other employee relations. 90J, information that is prohibited or information that if it were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. And then 21A of the FOIPA, commercial, financial, labor relations, scientific or technical information of or about a third party. Thank you for seconding that. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carries.